Not just one Hayabusa engine, two Hayabusa engines. Hello my friends, and welcome to Tom's Tinkering Adventures. Today we are going to be taking advantage of having two Hayabusa engines here to make one good one. The one on, well, I guess it's on my right, perhaps on your left. Well, it's behind me, your faith man. This one here belongs to my friend Hector, and this is in his awesome little Hayabusa powered, or was in his Hayabusa powered sand car, little dune buggy. And this one here I removed on a previous video from a wrecked motorcycle. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the good parts out of my friend's engine and put them in this engine, so then he can transplant this into his sand car. His current engine was leaking and smoking a little bit. And he said not terrible, and it still seemed to have plenty of power on a Hayabusa. I mean, how are you going to tell? They put out plenty of juice. The biggest item that we are going to be swapping, and well, actually it will be the main topic of this video, is going to be the transmission gears. He has back cut gears in the transmission on his sand car, so we need to transplant those into the donor engine. I've removed almost everything else to get them close to similar. There's some differences, the way that his engine is set up. It's got oil cooler ports are blocked off, whereas on this one, they're just open right now. So those covers will move. Looks like there's a little different cylinder unit there and a different cylinder unit there. And I'm sure I'll locate a few other different items. Obviously, his mounts on the top. And I think he said one of the mounts, perhaps this one, is a little different size. It'd be hard to tell because that one's all boogered up. But for now, I'm going to worry about getting those gears done. Now, I have printed out a portion of the manual that covers the engine disassembly, but engine disassembly by the manual would be, you know, taking the entire thing apart. It doesn't really have a section that just says, you know, here's what you do to get the gears out of the transmission. But having done this a time or two and a little bit of common sense and just taking a peek at things, you can see that the engine is split right here. So that is kind of along the horizontal plane of the engine. So anything that's going to interfere with opening the engine from here to here is going to have to come off. So that means pretty much any cover that bridges that gap. So like this cover, your clutch cover, of course, your stator cover, and anything else along those lines. And so I am going to take apart his engine first. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some padding down here, flip this engine upside down, maybe get some stuff here to brace it up, the wood or motorcycle tires or something. We'll jack the stand up here, and I'll start pulling those covers off. Proceeding forward here, I have removed this stator cover. I removed the water pump. I may not have had to remove the oil pan, clutch cover, and then the timing and starter cover right here. I'm going to remove the clutch, but I may not have to. I might be able to get by without it, but you know, we're going to go from this one to that one, so we're going to learn as we go. And like I said, I do have the manual, and it gives steps, but it's really for a complete teardown, and I'm not doing a complete teardown. So stuff like this flywheel rotor here, it says to remove that, but I don't think that I have to, because the case half is going to come off, and that's going to stay there. And I think I'm going to remove this little shifter cover here, and I may not have to do that either, but like I said, we're going to learn between this engine before we go to that one. one thing I want to point out when you're taking things apart, it's always good to have plastic bags. Put all the screws that go with each item in a plastic bag. It's always another good idea to label them. I will go back and get my Sharpie marker and label clutch cover, stator cover, etc., so that we know where they all go in case they fall out of there. So the next step I'm going to do, like I said, I'm going to take apart this clutch. Maybe I don't have to, that's okay. And then take this shifter cover off of here, and we can start looking at all the bolts. Like I said, without even opening the manual, there's lots of blatantly obvious ones around the perimeter of the engine that you know will have to come out, and then there's some underneath here, inside of here. So we're just going to start taking her apart and see what happens. Sometimes that's more fun than following the manual. The clutch removed. I also tipped the engine up a little bit, and I think I got all the bolts that are coming from the bottom. I'm actually from the top of the engine into the bottom of the engine. Made myself a little template here. So make sure you do that if you can remember to. I also started loosening up all the bolts. I think I have all the bolts loose. The only thing I have remaining really is this balancer. So I'm not familiar with how to do that, so that's why we have, excuse me, the manual, El Manuel. So, like I said, I had this printed out. My buddy gave me a digital copy of it. So that shows how to remove that balancer. And then there's all our sequence on how to get the rest of the engine apart. So I'll double check to make sure that I have all the bolts. And hopefully the next part of this video will be splitting this in half. It's always a fun time when you're getting ready to do something like this, because you can read the manual, look at it, and look at everything you're doing, and hopefully you got it right. Now, when you split an engine like this, a little bit of persuasion is required, but if you start beating on things and it's not moving, stop, okay? Because you know, you might have to take a look, see if you missed a bolt somewhere on it. But you go to the other side. Oh, it's already coming apart here. Gently, gently. And it looks like it's splitting all the way across. So that would tell me that we have all the bolts out. Hopefully you can hear me. I am looking at microphones, ladies and gentlemen, so that when I'm working on that side over there, you can hear what I'm saying. But I'm not too much of a technophobe. Alright. Is that a word? No, I'm not into the videos part of this so much. I like making the videos to help y'all, but the video part itself is not my forte, let's say. Okay, all right. So we are mostly apart. The only thing I see holding us up right now, and I saw this before and I just completely forgot about it, is this wire right there. So we'll take that all off, and then we will be split apart. We're in there. Now I just looked at the clock, and this has taken me a little bit less than 2 hours, and that's including video. So not too terrible of a job. I mean, getting the engine out is a big job, but getting to this point is not too bad. Now, if you're asking what back cut gears are, what's actually back cut on these is the engagement dogs. And if you're not 100% familiar with a motorcycle transmission, that's okay. There's lots of good videos online, much better than mine, explaining how a motorcycle transmission works. But basically, these gears slide back and forth like this. You have some that are free rotating, see that? And some that are attached to the shaft here and here. So it's on both of them. Some of them are free, some of them are attached. and they slide back and forth and engage, and then that's what makes your gears. So if you look right at that one, see how that angle is? Those are usually flat, and hopefully we'll see that on the inside of this one, that it's a flat, and these are cut at an angle so that as the gears engage, it actually draws them together. So it keeps the gears from popping out, basically. Something you don't really need so much on a motorcycle, but in a high traction situation, like on a dune buggy, that's going to help a lot. And we've got the lower end of our engine here. There's a crankshaft, lower end rod bearing caps for our piston rods. Pistons are down in there. And there's our bearing surfaces here. They actually all look pretty good, which is nice. So now, I think pretty much what I have done seemed to have worked. It looks like I probably could have got away without removing the water pump. I could have got away without removing that cover right there. The clutch, I think, really had to come off, but maybe I could have left it on. That's okay. We're going to take it off of this other one. Other than that, I got pretty lucky, I guess, as far as figuring this out. So what I'm going to do now is everything I did to this engine, I'm going to do to this engine. Oh yeah, I wanted to show you here. I used a cardboard box to put all those bolts from that one. And then all the bolts are poking through there. So that's my template for that one. Kind of nice, huh? So I'm going to do exactly what I did on this engine to that engine, and then we should be able to just lift this and this out, put them over into there, put this bottom half onto there. I'm going to have to read if there's any special procedures. I'm sure all this has to be wiped down. It looks like you put a little bit of sealant on there, and then start torquing. And then once I have these gears swapped into there and that bottom case on there, that's like 90% of the job. Second engine has taken me just under 1 hour to take it apart. Now, I did remove the water pump. I left this piece on. But other than that, everything pretty much the same. And we're off. We're just a little sticky here somewhere. Remember, gentle persuasion. Go. So gentle. Voila! Voila! Take this transmission real quick. And you can see how these gears are straight. Well, I put the cover back on that one versus the angles on the other ones. Remember those. So now all I got to do is pick this up and pick this up. Do the same on that. Move these over to that engine, those over to this engine. We'll button this engine all up. That way we'll know this is the correct one. I mean, there's a bazillion ways to figure that out. Mostly, you know, this welding and stuff on that engine. But there she is. I've removed the gears out of this one. I set them right here. Now, one thing you want to pay attention to is, you see we got these little pegs sticking up here, little locating dowels. So right there you can see that obviously goes in there like that. And then the other one has one right there. And also you want to pay attention to these little fellas here. That kind of locates your bearing. See how there's a groove cut in that bearing? And I'll look in the manual and make sure that I don't need to apply any sealant before I drop these in here. I've removed the gears out of here as well, but I just have them sitting on this engine. So we'll move them over. If I need to apply sealant, I mean, now would have been the time to change this O-ring. Well, actually, I think we can, yeah, we could get to that one from the outside if we need to. So that's not a problem. Same with that one. I'll double check if we need to apply any sealant. I don't think we do. But I have the manual, and I'll put you on here for installation. Manual does not say that sealant is required, so we're going to try this out, see if we can do this. And it's really quite simple. I'll show you one thing on the other set of gears there after I get this done. Locating pin on that one, down there, and it's really quite that simple. A little bit more adjusting. Hang on, there we go. All right, now let me show you what I noticed that I didn't point out before. Got these little pins. There's one there, and there's one there. And you can see that one's right there, and that one is right there. So everything looks like it's pretty well set down in here. Now all we got to do is clean all this area all up, and then look up where we need to put sealant, where we need to put oil, that sort of stuff. Like we're going to apply a little bit of Molly B oil on here, which is basically like engine assembly lube, and we may even put some on the gears. I have assembled the lower case onto the upper case of the engine. I mean, obviously it looks like it's the upper and the lower, but it's upside down. And I put in the small bolts, like I think there's 5 or 6 of them, just to make sure that the case sealed down around here, just snugged them down. Now, anytime that you split a motorcycle transmission, as soon as you possibly can, you want to try to shift through the gears. Now, I don't have the gear shifter here, but I just put a vice grips on here, and I'm turning the clutch shaft here and the counter shaft. So right now I'm holding the counter shaft and I'm turning the clutch shaft over here, and it's currently in neutral. So I think, let's take a look in here. One of these ways should be first gear. There we go. So now I turned this one and it's turning that one. See, I can't hold it. And back up there's neutral. There should be second gear. That should be third gear. Fourth gear. And maybe fifth gear down on there. Because it has the back cut gears, it's a little bit harder to shift through the gears, but they do all appear to be working. So now, check out my manual. It tells me how to tighten all of these. You also want to check, sometimes you have to add lubrication to them, or thread lock, or whatever, so, and copper washers. So make sure you read your manual. I'm going to go through and get these all torqued down. Slowly but surely getting everything locked down on here. Got the oil pan on, everything torqued on the bottom of the engine. This oil pipe. I also moved over the sensors from the sand buggy engine to the new sand buggy engine. And I don't have a new set of gaskets, so I'm not going to be installing this cover. I guess I'll install the clutch. We're not going to be installing that cover because the original stator off of the sand buggy engine is going on here, but it needs some work. So all I really need to do now is install the clutch, flip it over, and install the remaining, what we got here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bolts that go from the top of the engine down. So let me get these this clutch basket installed, and we will go on from there. Well, there she is in all her glory, the new sand cart engine, new used sand cart engine. And the old one, I just kind of buttoned it up. Like I said before, we still don't have a clutch cover. Got starter, clutch gear and all that. That cover's not on there, nor is the stator cover. But those are easy peasy, lemon squeezy once we get some new gaskets and get the stator fixed and all that. So hopefully if you ever have to get into the transmission area of a Hayabusa, this video helped you out. And if it did, or you dig what I'm putting out here, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Feel free to leave a comment down below, and if you're not already a subscriber, please consider doing so. Thank you very much for watching. Get out there and find your adventure. Adios.